The BBC is back in the headlines as well. There are calls for an inquiry following accusations the broadcaster has failed to properly investigate complaints of anti-Israel bias by its Arabic outlet. Essentially, there are numerous cases that have been, many cases that have been complained about to the BBC, and it appears the BBC has not responded. Many of them, BBC Arabic, described the capture of an Israeli soldier by Hamas gunman as an arrest. Also, the BBC Arabic repeatedly referred wrongly to Jewish settlers when they were talking about Jewish communities inside Israel's internationally recognised bodies. I could go on and on. At the same time, there are so many stories. A lawyer was threatened with arrest for driving a van with Gary Lineker, is Hamas's, I can't say that next word, Hamas's puppet, emblazoned on the side. This is Daniel Confino, the son of a Holocaust survivor, says he was ordered to move on by officers while staging a process outside the BBC London headquarters earlier this month. The red camper van also had, very politely, BBC is Lineker's Pimp written on the other side. It's extraordinary, this. He was using his freedom of speech to say what he thinks about the BBC. You know, the BBC is under a lot of fire at the moment. There's also this Richard Holden, the chairman of the Conservative Party, saying the BBC has no right to exist. They can't even call Hamas a terrorist organisation. I think the BBC's in a bit of trouble.
I think the BBC's model is quite outdated now. I think, I think from when it was established to where it is now, times have moved on. I think to fully defund it is a different point, and I'm not sure where I stand fully on that. But yeah, no, there is a pretentious kind of thing that the BBC seems to have, that they are the be-all, end-all when it comes to news. So I think it constantly needs to be monitored. I mean, whether that's by the Conservative Party or not. But I think, I don't know, actually, I'll be honest, I haven't much to say on this one, because I just think, yes, there's always going to be, I think there's always...
But don't you think there are double standards here? So basically this chap has got a van, he's put a slogan on the side, which I think he's entitled to do. But also at the same time, the police are saying that if you go around chanting jihad, you won't be arrested.
Well, it goes back to Suella's two-tier policing thing that she touched on that. Well, it got her sacked, really, didn't it? So better not say that.
I think the BBC and the police are slightly different stories. I mean, with the BBC covering Middle East, it's not going to be easy, whichever outlet you are.
Indeed.
So it is very, very
difficult.
But
they do need to be impartial.
Of course they need to be impartial. Of course they need to be impartial, and they need to be careful and sensitive, and it's a difficult job, and they've got things wrong. At the same time, it's important that we have some broad media consensus, because when we start getting too fragmentary in the media, as we're seeing sort of with social media nowadays and TikTok, it can be quite concerning sometimes.
But I think people want to trust the BBC, but they no longer can. And I think that erosion really came during COVID, where they really felt bamboozled by the BBC. And that now is going into other areas.
And that's so a trusted source has actually dented its credentials. Yes. That's the problem with that. Just going back to this thing about reallocation of spending, and I said that actually let's shrink Whitehall, for example. Esther McVeigh this morning in the Express is saying, please stop spending taxpayers' cash on staff networks. Now, you and I know that in these big companies they have all of these networks of supporting minorities, different faiths, people with disabilities. They say it helps make the civil service more representative. Well, they are spending a lot of money on that.